So the really quick and easy recipe I use for some body butter is nice and simple. There's no weighing it out, there's no putting it in a bain-marie to melt it all down, because I mean, if you want to use it, you want to be able to make it in 5 minutes. It's not gonna be a complete event where you're putting out the scales and measurements and you're melting it all. I ain't got time for that. I mean, because every time, when I used to do that, every time I ran out, I just end up not having it for ages, because I just like, oh, I can't be bothered, because it's such a mission. And then at the end I was like, whatever, don't care, just gonna put random things in a pot and see what happens. So as long as you've got some shea butter, some coconut oil, and a random oil, job's a good one, you can make it. And so the shea butter, you just get it in big tubs, really cheap, you know, unrefined. And then you get the coconut oil, again, just, it kind of almost looks like a paste. So even though it's called coconut oil, it's not like a liquid, it's, you know, it just looks like a paste. And then the random oil, every time I buy ones, I just try different ones. So like, I think currently I've got almond oil. I think before that I had hemp oil. So it just doesn't matter. Just olive oil. I mean, just use whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And just whatever. Every time you go to buy it, whatever happens to be cheap, buy that one. Because I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, unless you're like going after like a specific problem when you want, like, you know, rose hip seed oil or some stuff like that. But yeah, so just chuck it in. So it's like 70%, 80% of the shea butter, a wee bit of coconut oil, you know, just a few scrapes, and then a wee bit of oil. Well, I think when I made it this time, I put in like 4 spoons, but I just did that for the sake of the video. Normally I would just like do a wee glug, and because I ended up doing the spoons, because it wasn't something that I'd normally do, I ended up putting in too much and it was a wee bit too oily. But I mean, I don't mind, because I only put it on at night time anyway, and as long as I'm not like super greasy where I'm like staining all the furniture, then I don't really care. I mean, so it's completely fine, because when you make it a bit dry, it seems to not exactly last as long, but it turns a bit more and kind of just looks a bit gross. Was when you do it so it's got a wee bit oily, and then the blender just whips it up. And if you get some arrowroot powder, again, that's really cheap to buy on like Amazon, or probably like, you know, your health food store like Holland and Barrett or whatever. And if you put in like just do a tablespoon at a time, and then blend it up again, and just because little bit at a time, and then the arrowroot powder really sucks all that oil up and just stops it being really greasy. So if you find it a bit minging and horrible and greasy, a wee bit of arrowroot powder, job's a good one. I think when I made it this time, I also actually had some mango butter. I mean, you can use cocoa butter, but I hate that stuff. It smells so sickly and disgusting, so I don't use cocoa butter in anything. It's horrid, disgusting. And even though it may have skincare benefits, I don't care, because I hate it that much, so I'm not going to use it. But if you love cocoa butter, chuck that in. So yeah, in this time I just made the like mostly shea butter, a wee bit of coconut oil, a wee bit of mango butter, and then a few splashes of that almond oil, and then job's a good one. But actually, because I make all my own serums, and then that is enough. You chuck all that in and then blend it. But just because I happen to make all my own serums, I've got loads of little random things, you know, like vitamin E, provitamin B5, you know, various ferments and all that, you know, liquid vegetable collagen, just a few drops of like random things just to kind of pimp it up a little bit, but you don't need to do any of that. So yeah, just super easy. Get some shea butter, coconut oil, and a random oil, blend it up, job's a good one. If you want extra stuff, put in some mango butter or some like cocoa butter, and get some arrowroot powder, because it's good to have that on backup, because it's super cheap anyway, and if it stops it being greasy. And don't worry too much about the percentages, because when you make it like this, the whole thing takes just a few minutes. Was if you, the way I used to do it, like be paranoid about weighing like 80 grams of this, 40 grams of that, and then put it in like a bain-marie and then boil it so that, well, you're not letting a jug, so that it all kind of melts. And then once it's all melted and fully combined, and then you put it in and then you blend it, that's just it was just such a mission. I just could not be bothered. So yeah, don't worry about that. Just get those few basic ingredients, chuck them all in a blender, you're good to go. And because it's not get loads of water, it's not going to turn or anything. You don't need to worry about preservatives. And I go through it quite quickly anyway, just the entire body. And if you find it is a wee bit too greasy or a bit heavy, you can just alternate it. So like one night do like a body lotion, the other night use this body butter, and then so you kind of just divvy it out a wee bit. But yep, give it a go. It's super easy.